with all of the evidence that they had, that it would be a pretty easy call to make.
Look at the profile. What's that look like on the top of the head? I'd submit to you that looks like hair.
If you believe that story, does that make a shred of sense? Absolutely not.
We want justice for Jeff and his family more than anything.
What were the odds that deliberations would go into a third day? Meanwhile, Robert Tellis's former employees are calling for justice. We've got a report for you from Las Vegas coming up. And two of the jurors in Alec Murdaugh's murder trial are now revealing themselves. And one of them says she isn't convinced that he killed his wife and his son. Also this hour, we're spotlighting the death of UGA law student Tara Baker. Her cold case now headed to trial, and a friend of her family joins us live. Plus, we've got newly revealed documents about how little Madeline Soto was killed and what Stephen Stearns allegedly did in the days leading up to Madeline's death. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee in court? That's what we do in the morning at this time, get you all ready to go for the Court TV Live day ahead. So right now, why don't you go ahead and grab that cup of coffee or tea or hot water with lemon, whatever you like in the morning. It's time for my opening statement. In the words of the late, great Tom Petty, the waiting is the hardest part. What is taking so long in the ex-politician murder trial? What is this jury struggling with? The facts seem pretty clear to me. The state of Nevada established that Robert Tellis had the motive, the means, and the opportunity to murder Jeff Gehrman. Tellis was mad that Jeff Gehrman exposed his extramarital affair and the corruption in his office, which ultimately cost him to lose his seat in the next election. Tellis's DNA is found underneath Jeff Gehrman's fingernails. A cut-up straw hat and white sneakers, just like the killer wore, were found inside Tellis's house. Over 100 pictures of Jeff Gehrman's house and the cul-de-sac where he lived were found on Tellis's cell phone. Crybaby Tellis's alibi about being at home at the time of the murder was completely destroyed by the text from his own wife, the "Where are you?" text that came at the time Jeff Gehrman was being killed. Now, if all that is not enough, you can add in Tellis's absurd conspiracy claim about how he was targeted by a real estate company who thought that the best way to get back at Tellis would be by murdering the reporter who was writing negative articles about him. That makes about as much sense as a screen door on a submarine, right? Yeah, it doesn't. Makes no sense. And maybe today will be the day that we finally get a resolution to this case. I keep saying it, if Robert Tellis wins this case, it is not because of him. It is because of his excellent lawyers. I know one thing is for sure. Jeff Gehrman didn't deserve to be murdered. He deserves justice now. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Sir, to your knowledge and based on your investigation, was there anyone else in that tractor trailer besides the victim and the defendant?
No.
All right, we've got testimony continuing this morning in the trucker's girlfriend murder trial. That's going to begin at 9 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to bring it to you live once it starts. We've also got happening in Georgia a bond hearing scheduled for Jesus Monroy. This is the guy charged with killing his pregnant ex-girlfriend, 16-year-old Mia Campos. That hearing starts at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And in Nevada, deliberations continue in the murder trial of disgraced politician Robert Tellis. That is, of course, our top story this morning. That's where we begin. The jury out for about 10 hours over the course of 2 days so far. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson gives us the very latest.
Julie, good morning. Day 3 of deliberations here in the Silver State, and this Las Vegas jury having a lot of questions. Former elected official Robert Tellez on trial for the brutal stabbing death of investigative journalist Jeff Gehrman. On Monday, the jury of 5 men, 7 women asking for the court's help on zooming into videos the defense claims showed the suspect with hair and glasses. On Tuesday, the jury asked to see a side-by-side comparison video of the murder suspect fleeing the scene and Tellez walking in his office. At the courthouse, a group of women who worked with Tellez and described it as a hostile work environment had this to say about the deliberations.
Just being patient. We've had 2 years and more of working with this, knowing what's happened, and we believe that the right thing is going to be done. Our hearts and prayers are for justice for Jeff and his family more than anything. It's very, very difficult to wait. But we hope and pray and believe the jury's doing their very best to review everything that they've been told. It's been a lot. We think the prosecution did a great job, and we hope. I believe the jury's doing a good job and will come to the right decision.
The jury will continue deliberations in just a few hours from now, and if Tellez is found guilty, they will also weigh in on the penalty phase. That is the very latest from Las Vegas. I'll send it back to you, Julie.
Oh, that's an interesting tidbit there. Matt Johnson in Las Vegas. We'll hear more from him later today. Now, let's bring in our legal analyst to talk about what is going on with this jury. With me this morning, civil rights and criminal defense attorney Casey Early and criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Franz Borghardt. Franz, let me start with you, please. Read the tea leaves for us. What do you think is going on?
We always want to be in the room where it happens, right? I think you've got a good old-fashioned holdout right now. Somebody that's looking at the photo with a guy in a wig on saying, oh, it's not him. He has hair. This is obvious, right? This is an easy one. This should be a layup. But look, this is the justice system. Juries deliberate. And we don't get to dictate to them how long and how they go over the evidence. And maybe they're still just talking about it. I don't know, but it smells like the tea leaves look like there's a holdout or maybe more than one holdout.
I think you're right, Franz. Casey, what do you think? What do you think is going on?
Julie, I'm glad that I'm not a betting woman, because right now, if I thought this would have been a quick, swift, guilty verdict. But I agree with Franz. I do believe that it's that profile pick, and I'll tell you why. As I was watching the closing arguments, when the defense attorney pointed out the hair, the profile, the glasses, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. We didn't hear about this the entire trial. And that is what you call smart lawyering. He purposely did not bring it up throughout the duration of the trial because he didn't want it to stand up to cross-examination. But what the prosecution should have done was attack it and place that seed back into the jury and say, wait a minute, come on, he disguised himself with a hat. Surely he could have disguised himself with glasses and a wig. This is him. I do believe with Franz that there's a holdout juror saying, no, I don't believe he's the one who actually killed him. Therefore, he's not guilty. But no way. They're going to have to convince that juror he's guilty 100%.
With you, Casey. I have a clip I want to play for both of you. Apparently, the jury wanted to see Robert Tellez's walk again. I mean, you tell me what you think. I think he's got a little bit of a funny walk. Let's take a look.
And then we have his walk. Like, he's got a little hitch in his getup where he kind of leans to this one side. You can kind of see it. There's something that is about his little walk. And look, you don't have to take my word for it. You can evaluate whether you think what Zach and Christy had to say about it. They've hung out with him. They've walked with him. They thought, and think about how they saw it. They were like, man, they kind of knew the background between Gehrman and Tellez, and they were like, wouldn't that be funny if that was him? He's got those same goofy gray shoes.
Yeah, the jury wanted to apparently see some video from the sidewalk of the suspect walking down the road. We have that video, and take a look at it contrasted with Tellez walking in his office. Franz, your thoughts on this? Do you think that the state could have done any more with this? Maybe calling in, I don't know, maybe a podiatrist or someone to analyze the gait and say this guy's got a really distinct gait. Take a look at these videos.
Julie, there was DNA underneath, like, the victims. I mean, come on. The state did a great job. There's nothing wrong with the state's case. These are the facts of the case, right? And look, who would have anticipated that the gape would have been something that the jury wanted to hitch its horse to? Like, I wouldn't have emphasized the walk. He did a good job in his argument. He mentioned the walk. They played the evidence for it. I wouldn't have put an expert on for walking. I would have put a DNA expert on. I would have put testimony as to, hey, look what was at his house, under his couch. Like, this was a slam dunk. I'm taking layoff off the table. This is a slam dunk. There's just a holdout. There's just a holdout, and jurors do this sometimes.
Well, you know, and this is a really good point for discussion, right? Because at some point, like you're saying, Frenchie, you have to stop and say, okay, argument is enough. I need an expert for this. I don't necessarily need one for that. It's not like the state has, unlimited funding. There are, budgetary concerns. But sometimes I think that jurors expect proof beyond all doubt, and that is not the burden. And defense attorneys love, to have jurors thinking that, right? Casey, would you kind of speak to, the things that you hope jurors will get hung up on when you are on the side of the defense team, and tell us, as we know, has really good defense lawyers?
Listen, Julie, when I know that my case is not going my way, because really a trial just really changes throughout the course of the testimony, I harp on that reasonable doubt. And in Florida, reasonable doubt can be found in three ways: the lack of evidence, a conflict of the evidence, or in the evidence itself. So I always throw out there, ladies and gentlemen, if there was a witness that you wanted to hear from and that witness was not called, don't blame my client, blame the state of Florida. So that typically works, because they're like, wait a minute, this witness wasn't called, that witness wasn't called, or we didn't see this evidence, or there's a conflict in the evidence, conflict, lack of evidence, evidence in itself, reasonable doubt equals not guilty. And I think this is what's happening back there. But I really hold my hat on is that profile. But there was overwhelming evidence. And if that holdout could look at all the other evidence, then it should be, that person should be swayed to a guilty verdict. But I was not anticipating this verdict to take this long, deliberations.
Right, I'm with you. And thank you for that. How you put it back on the state, as you said, Casey, because the state carries the burden. It's up to them. Franz, tell me, hearkening back to your time as a prosecutor, how concerned would you be if you were one of these prosecutors that the jury has been out this long on the case that we all agree here? And feel free to disagree with us at home. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on social media. But we think this is, as you said, a slam dunk, Franz. Would you be worried if you're the prosecution?
So this is a duck in water moment. On the surface, you're floating, looking cool and calm. You're supporting the victims, but underneath, you're frantically trying to stay afloat, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to let the jury do what it's going to do.
I mean, if they get a hung jury here, that's not the end of the world for the state. It's a lot of as you both know, energy and effort to try it again. A not guilty, wow, wouldn't that be something? Franz and Casey, we have to leave it there for now. Jury deliberations begin 11:30 a.m. Things are going to start back up, we are told. And Franz, we have to say goodbye to you. We have to let you get off to court. Thank you for everything this morning. Always great having you. Casey is coming along. I want you to do the same, please. Here's what's coming up next on Opening Statements.
Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is the verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hands. Thank you.
Up next, two jurors are sharing what went on behind the scenes in Alec Murdaugh's murder trial. We're going to hear from them when we come back. And newly revealed documents say that Madeline Soto was strangled to death. And this gives us more insight into the relationship that her mother had with her accused killer.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan.
In every story, in every trial, every case, there's at least two sides to it.
To dive into the latest.
Oh my God.
And breaking true crime stories.
This was a very targeted, very personal attack.
Inside.
I've never seen that in Discovery. I've been incarcerated 3 years.
And outside of the courtroom.
She's a psychopath.
Now, Let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Love Maggie from the first time we went out. No, I did not kill Maggie. I did not kill Paul.
Did you lie to them by telling them that you were not down at the kennels on that night?
Yes. But once I lied, I continued to lie. Yes, sir.
Why?
You know, oh, what a tangled web we weave.
Now for what's trending in true crime, for the first time, 2 jurors are sharing what went on behind the scenes in Alec Murdaugh's murder trial. Fox News sat down with a woman known as the egg juror who was dismissed from the case. She got that nickname for leaving a dozen eggs in the jury room. And also, Juror Z, who was the only deliberating juror who admitted her guilty verdict was influenced by Clerk of Court Becky Hill. Take a listen to what Juror Z had to say.
Do you believe he was guilty?
I still had questions.
What was your biggest hurdle in your doubt?
They didn't never find the murder weapons.
But in many murder trials, there's not a weapon.
Yeah. To me, I felt like they had already had in their minds that he was guilty. Like they didn't try to look for anybody else.
Murdaugh was convicted, as we know, of murdering his wife Maggie and his youngest son Paul. Now his attorneys are seeking an overturning of his conviction. They're saying that Becky Hill influenced that jury and that violated his right to a fair trial. The South Carolina Supreme Court has agreed to hear Murdaugh's appeal, and Hill resigned earlier this year. Now let's talk about this. We have a very special guest. I want to welcome in now, friend of Court TV Network and the attorney who represents multiple other jurors in Alec Murdaugh's case, attorney Eric Bland. Eric, good morning. Share with us your thoughts on this, please.
Good morning, Julie. I'm always dubious when jurors about a year and a half later or an extended period of time after a trial and they're, subject to direct and indirect influences, decide that they're going to change their verdict, specifically Juror Z. Juror Z was polled, came in, and she raised her hand and said that her verdict was her own conscience and was not subject to any pressure or duress. She is now saying that not only was she influenced by what Becky Hill said, but she was also influenced by the jury. I'm dubious of that. As to the egg lady juror, if she is to be believed in that she had multiple discussions with Becky Hill during the trial, where she discussed whether she didn't believe that Alex was guilty, she has violated the oath by Judge Newman, and she was rightly removed from the jury if she engaged in those discussions. My 6 jurors testified that they had not heard anything from Becky Hill that was inappropriate. So we can have a system where jurors raise their hand, swear under oath to follow the directions of the judge, and then are polled after a guilty verdict and said that this verdict was of their own free will, and now a year and a half later change that.
Right. It's a great point, Eric. Let's take a listen together to some of what the egg juror had to say to Fox News.
Do you think the judge made a mistake removing you?
In all honesty, I do.
You had put a lot of your time and effort into that jury.
I did.
Why do you think you were removed from the jury?
Because they couldn't read me.
Okay, so she was the one that definitely, you could tell, didn't want to be removed, Eric. I remember it very well, the back and forth with the judge. Judge Newman was so good with her. Your thoughts on her specifically and what she's saying about Becky Hill. Was she targeted to be removed?
That has to be investigated if that is the case, and I'm sure the criminal investigation that is ongoing on Becky Hill is dealing with that. But Judge Newman, to criticize him and say that he was part of this plan to remove her is just totally over the top Judge Newman did an exhaustive examination of her in chambers, determined that she had talked about the verdict, that she had talked about it inappropriately with other jurors, not with just Becky Hill. And I think he, in his mind, made the right decision because she violated his directives. I mean, it's clear if you listen to her words now, she did. And I also believe, Julie, that if there were this many conversations supposedly with Becky Hill and the jurors, not only with the egg lady, not only with juror Z, but others, somebody would have gone to the jury foreperson who would have then gone to the judge, or these people on their own would have need to talk to the judge. We're talking about the verdict, about it with us. It's violating your instructions. None of that happened.
Right. That's an excellent point, Eric. All the layers of protection and all the assurances. And then also, we remember seeing Justice Toll in the hearing that was had, and all of this has also been gone over by her in the first review. Your thoughts on, I think a lot of people want to know, at the end of the day, legally, can what these two women are saying now come in at all at the time of Alec Murdaugh's appellate arguments before the South Carolina Supreme Court?
Whatever was submitted to Justice Toll and came from the witness stand will be submitted to the Supreme Court. They're not going to take after acquired evidence. The Supreme Court is not a fact-finding panel. So they will take what the record is created by Justice Toll. Before Justice Toll were 11 jurors who said that the verdict was their verdict. There was the one juror who did say that she was influenced by what Becky Hill said. So when you have an 11-1, Justice Toll felt that that was not enough. But the issue before the Supreme Court, Julie, is going to be a legal issue, which is, did Justice Toll apply the correct standard when determining whether juror influence occurred and whether it influenced the jury's verdict? And that's the federal versus the state standard in the Remmer case.
Right, Eric. And to refresh our memories, Justice Toll, for how many years, was on the South Carolina Supreme Court, right? I believe, was she the first woman, I think, on the court, I read? She's got an impressive background.
She was the first. She was on the court for over almost 20 years. One of the most respected jurists that we've ever had. Her opinions never really criticized. I think it's going to be a task for our Supreme Court to reverse a former Chief Justice. I think if it's going to get a reversal, it's going to have to happen on a federal court level.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Great point, Eric. Last question to you, please. Is there anything else you think the public should be thinking about with this? There's a lot of talk. Of course, there's such an appetite for all things that pertain to Alec Murdaugh, I think, because of the shocking nature of this and the double life he was living. Anything else you think that is worth discussing this morning as we wait and look forward to the case going on appeal?
Well, I mean, we want to have a fair system. I mean, as much as I think that Alec Murdaugh is guilty, and I've said this to you, the system has to work for the worst of us, not just the best of us. And so that's the beauty of our system. But, you know, the Murdaugh press machine's in full court press right now. Don't forget that there were 11 other jurors that sat 7 weeks and made their conscience decision that he was guilty. And to completely wipe away those 11 other thoughtful jurors who voted guilty because one juror now, after having direct and indirect pressure, a year and a half later is saying one thing. And we have the egg juror who has been all over the map, quite frankly, and is now admitting that she violated the judge's oath. I'd be really, again, dubious to completely open up this case just based on testimony alone. I think if it's going to be opened up, it should be, did Justice Toll provide the correct rule of law?
Outstanding analysis from you, Eric, and insight as always. Thank you kindly for making time for us this morning. We'll look forward to having you back soon. Thanks so much for having me. Of course. And still to come this morning on opening statements, it took 23 years for police to make an arrest in the murder of a University of Georgia law student.
Since the arrest, I've done my due diligence, and I've learned how this defendant has lived these past 23 years without any regard for the law that Tara was hoping to one day represent.
Up next, a podcaster close to Tara Baker's family joins us live to talk about the case and what the family is doing now as they wait for what comes next. Welcome back. This morning, we're shining the spotlight on a cold case murder of a Georgia University law student and the man who's now behind bars accused of her death. 48-year-old Edric Faust was arrested earlier this year in the 2001 murder of Tara Baker. The case had gone cold until a newly formed Georgia Bureau of Investigation unit looked into it. Firefighters had discovered Baker's body when they responded to an apartment fire in Athens, Georgia. Prosecutors said that Baker was sodomized, strangled, and stabbed to death. Now, Faust was in court last week trying to get bond.
It is clear to this court that the way in which the state has alleged these crimes happened show this court that this defendant at this time poses a significant threat to persons in the community.
Now, the judge also denied bond because of Faust's horrible criminal history. Baker's sister says the family has waited 23 long years for an arrest and an indictment. Joining me this morning, Classic City crime podcaster Cameron J., who also happens to be close to Tara Baker's family. Cameron, good morning. Thank you for coming on the program. Could we start, please, with how you got to know the Baker family?
Good morning, Julie. It's great to be with you from the great city of Athens, where justice is in the air. 2 years ago, we joined together with Tara's family to really tell Tara's story. We had no intentions of solving her case, understanding that that is the role of law enforcement, but we got right to work step in step with her family, telling her story. Hundreds of thousands of people tuned in, and you can only imagine the relief when we learned that someone after 23 years would finally be held accountable.
Cameron, tell us, how is the family doing today? You know, where's their focus? Where are their minds? As we know, this was a long time, and it doesn't get any easier when you lose a loved one. Sometimes the pain gets even worse. How are they here and now?
Yes, well, what I can tell you is that the Baker family is truly the strongest family that I know. They have been through so many things over 23 years, and they have had to relive Tara's death over and over again. With the news of Mr. Faust's arrest and the indictments that were handed down, they are now learning for the first time the real truth about what happened on 160 Fawn Drive 23 years ago. So that has been very difficult for them as they're processing all of those new details that will continue to come out as the wheels of justice continue to turn. But like I said, from Miss Virginia to Meredith and Kevin and Adam, her brothers, they are all truly the strongest people I know, and I couldn't be more proud of them for continuing to advocate for Tara all these years later.
Yeah, that's the truth, Cameron. They've been great advocates for her. And her sister, you, I'm sure, remember the moment in that recent hearing for Edric Faust. She read the letter to the court. Let's go back and take a moment and listen to some of what she said.
He was arrested for criminal trespass, battery, assault, fleeing police, distributing narcotics, harassment, stalking, and a lost count of all his parole violations. This defendant cannot go to Waffle House without throwing a tantrum, nor the 40 Watt without breaking a man's jaw, nor cruise without being arrested for domestic violence. At least we forget that he is barred from UGA for indecent exposure.
He's got a terrible criminal history, and so he's exhibited criminal behavior all his life, cloaked in the presumption of innocence. Of course, with these charges, we'll see what happens. Cameron, the family sitting through that had to be tough. I mean, the defense called witnesses. Did you get to speak with them after this hearing about what it was like being in the room with the man accused of killing Tara?
Absolutely, and I don't think any of us could imagine the emotion that accompanies being face-to-face with the person who is now standing, or will rather stand trial for your daughter's murder, which occurred 23 years ago. But, you know, as I said, this family has always remained focused on one topic and one person. that is not the person responsible for this crime. That is their daughter. And so they continue to, even through every proceeding that is on the way and that is currently happening, they continue to remain focused on their daughter. And one thing we should say about Tara this morning is that she was such a fierce advocate for justice. She was an advocate for the law, and she wanted to practice law upon graduation from law school. And so I think it's just remarkable that 23 years later, that passion for justice that she had is something that can now be realized in bringing about justice and bringing it home for her.
Sure. I wanted to ask you, please, Cameron, what has the family shared about how Tara was personally? What kind of person was she? What kind of a life did she live? What don't we know about her, please?
Yeah. Well, what I can say is that Tara was truly a bold, bright, and beautiful inside and out law student. She was the champion of the underdog. She would seek out the lost, the left behind, and the forgotten to make sure that they would feel loved, accepted, valued, and seen. She truly was simply good. And good on January 19th of 2001, in my opinion, encountered the most evil person that it could encounter that day. And so as we continue moving forward in this, I never want everyone to forget who Tara was and the mission of her life. Though she only lived a 23 short years, and we were certainly robbed of the talents she would have contributed to our communities, let's make sure that we always keep our focus on Tara and uplifting her family as they process through this terrible, terrible trial.
Amen, Cameron, amen. That's what we aim to do on this show every day, put the focus on the victims. Tara deserves to be remembered. You're absolutely right. Tell me, how is the community responding to now we have an arrest in this case? Now we have the first court hearing. It's like there's some momentum after all these years. What is the feel there in Athens where you are?
You know, there was a mixed bag of emotions when the news broke. There was relief for the community that someone would finally be held accountable, but there was also the realization that we will now learn the real truth, as I stated previously. What I can say, too, is that this community rallied behind Tara's family. They also never gave up over 23 years that someone somewhere knew something that would lead to an arrest. And I just have to say that in all of this, we cannot forget to thank the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and our legislators and advocates who worked together to make sure that this GBI cold case unit would form, and how honorable it was that Tara's case was the first case solved by that unit. It's just a remarkable beginning to the next part of this story.
Cameron J., we'll look forward to talking with you more as this case progresses. Again, your podcast is Classic City Crime. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you soon. And when we come back, we're talking about what is tipping the scales of justice as Court TV has obtained some brand new documents in the death of Madeline Soto. And later this morning, convicted killer Wade Wilson sentenced to death. Brand new reaction we've got from the victim's family members.
In the world of true crime, the path from victim to verdict is never a straight line. Join me for a Court TV original series that takes you through every dark twist and turn, from the crime scene to the courtroom in America's most compelling cases.
She killed my daughter, and he marries her.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins, a Court TV original series. New season premieres September 8th.
Only on Court TV.
Our detectives have determined that Madeline was never dropped off on the morning of February 26th near her school. Instead, we believe she was already dead at the time, and that Stephen Stearns moved her body in the early morning hours on that day.
Now for what's tipping the scales, there are some brand new developments in the death of 13-year-old Madeline Soto. Investigators now revealing she was strangled to death. Her body found in a wooded area back in March, just days after she was reported missing. Court TV has been pouring through those newly released documents that also indicate that the 13-year-old's body showed signs of decomposition on one side of her face and on her hands. Now, Stephen Stearns, her mom's boyfriend, has been accused of murdering Madeline. He's also accused of a slew of sex crimes charges pertaining to Madeline after investigators said they discovered thousands of disturbing pictures and videos collected from his cell phone. Now, Stearns has maintained his innocence, pleading not guilty to all of the charges. Here to break it all down, let me welcome back in criminal defense and civil rights attorney Casey Early, and want to welcome in Court TV digital producer Lauren Silver. Lauren, I want to start with you, please, as you have been really pouring through these documents. Would you walk us through some of the biggest takeaways that you had in going through these and the questions that we've been really waiting for quite some time to get answers to?
Sure. Thank you for having me. So we knew that her body was found on March 1st, days after she was reported missing on February 26th. We knew she was found in a wooded area, but this is the first time we're hearing about the condition her body was in and anything about the autopsy. Those had been sealed. So we now know when the body was found, they did note decomposition to half of her face and to her hands. We do not know if that was because of injury or because of just the environment in Florida. Investigators noted that the bottoms of her socks were completely clean. She had been wearing Crocs, but there was no dirt on the bottom of her socks, which means to them that she did not walk to where she was found. She had to have been carried there. The medical examiner also immediately noted at the scene that the right portion of the hyoid bone was not intact. That is a bone in your neck that generally indicates strangulation, but it wasn't until several weeks later that she was, in fact, ruled a homicide by strangulation.
That's so huge. All of this so huge, Lauren. The hyoid bone, that's something I can remember just listening to discussions that Dr. Cyril Wecht would have. That's such an indication. Whenever I hear that bone is fractured, I think strangulation because of what he's taught me. And so now when we think about this, we are wondering, does this perhaps, investigators have known these things, the public, it's new to us, right? Does it change in any way the case against Stephen Stearns? And do we think that perhaps Mom might be charged at some point? In what came out yesterday, I know it was revealed that Mom knew they were sleeping, together in the same bed. She didn't like it, she said. She said she didn't have much of a sex life with Stephen Stearns, but knew of that close contact with Madeline. Casey, let me go to you on this. Your thoughts, do you think we're going to see Mom brought in?
I think there needs to be a deeper investigation into Mom, because every time I think about Madeline, I think about my own daughter, who's 13 years old right now. And then you can do a comparison about what's inappropriate and what's appropriate. And in this case, everything that I hear is inappropriate. The fact that he's not even a biological father, he's just a boyfriend, not stepdad, so to speak, because the relationship wasn't long enough. But the fact that she didn't see anything wrong with it, you don't have a sex life, but you're in the same bed with a 13-year-old girl. And then the totality of the circumstances, when you're thinking mitigation as a defense attorney, if there's a lot of evidence, whether it's circumstantial or direct evidence, then you want to mitigate. But then you look at all of the evidence against him, the photos that was captured on his phone, the inappropriate photos, the sexual photos, and everything that we're hearing. This is a difficult case, but it's also a sad case. I do a lot of sex cases. And one thing I conduct of my defendants is a psychosexual evaluation, because it goes deeper and it shows a different side of the defendant for purposes of mitigation. So, of course, law enforcement would need to investigate Mom further, because there's some things that were inappropriate that Mom should have known better.
You're right, Casey. Mom should have known better. Lauren, let me go back to you. Tell us a little bit about some other details that you were able to glean from those documents you were reading yesterday.
Well, every time we get a new document, we seem to get more information about what police have been given by Jennifer Soto, her descriptions of her relationship with Stefan, and Stefan's relationship with Madeline. We did know they sort of had an on-again, off-again relationship. In the most recent interviews, she told them that they broke up because he was, quote, a messy person. And Jennifer told police that they rarely, if ever, had sex. She described it as vanilla if they did, but she did say that he very much wanted to have anal sex, which she was not interested in. And in terms of having her daughter sleep in the bed, she admitted to having her daughter sleep in the bed. In fact, the night before she disappeared, she said that she had sent her daughter to sleep in Stefan's bed. And when police pushed her about that, she then said that she wasn't really comfortable with him sleeping in Stefan's bed, but she said that it was a selfish move because she wanted a good night's sleep. So sort of turning around, admitting that it was a poor idea. She also, in later interviews, described Stefan as a, quote, master liar and a master manipulator, but didn't go into any details about why she may be saying that. I would be very curious about what in their relationship made her say that.
Oh, wow. Lauren, this is sickening. So let's back up a second. Casey, mom tells police that she wanted to get a good night's sleep. And we remember Madeline had a birthday party. So she sends her daughter in to sleep with her boyfriend so she can sleep alone and have a good snooze. Your reaction to that?
Red flag, red flag, red flag. And this is why mom needs to be investigated further. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You want a good night's sleep, so you put the priorities of you over your child. Parents are nurturers, and we have this ability to know what's right versus what's wrong. So that just doesn't sit well with me. And it appears that as she speaks further and investigated further, you hear things, it's like, that's not right. Something doesn't seem right. So I do believe another interview or investigation, deeper investigation, should be required so that we can find out what, if anything else, occurred in this household during that time that they were together.
Exactly, Casey. Lauren, back to you, please. There was a reference to an anesthetic that was found in the searching of Stephen Stern's electronics. What did you learn about that?
So the information coming out of what's been found on Stefan Stern's phones and electronics has mostly been limited to descriptions of thousands of pictures of minors engaged in sexual acts. But now we are hearing that he searched a drug called sevoflurane multiple times, and that he searched it with the term show up in drug test. So I did look it up. Sevoflurane is an anesthetic. It's used in general surgery and is only used under the direction of a doctor, like via IV. This is not a drug you could pick up at a CVS or a Walgreens. So we don't know in what context this was, but I do think it's worth noting that while we have gotten confirmation that Madeline Stearns was strangled to death, we have not gotten any kind of toxicology report. So we don't know what her hormone levels were, if there were any drugs in her system, or if there was anything else going on there. So this adds a lot of questions, not a lot of answers.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point, Lauren. And I remember hearing that these reports would be under seal, her cause of death would be under seal for some time in Florida, something that had to do with the fact that this might have occurred in the context of a domestic situation. Casey, if you know, can you shed a little bit of light on why now may we be seeing these documents unsealed in Florida on this one when we thought we wouldn't ever get to see them anytime soon?
Well, it depends, especially with sexual cases, whether you're dealing with sexual battery with minors or sexual battery with victims who are over the age of 18 but intoxicated or heavily induced by drugs. Priority is protecting the identity of the alleged victim in this case, but also protecting the integrity of the investigation, especially if it's ongoing. And then, obviously, once you get to the discovery phase and the investigation is complete, some of these documents are made available. So it depends on the status of the case, but oftentimes with sexual cases, they're usually under seal for those reasons.
For identity purposes. Casey, thank you for that. So now we wait to see if Jennifer Soto is going to be charged. Lauren Silver, lastly to you, was there any response or anything? Has Jennifer Soto said anything publicly since the document dropped yesterday?
She has not said anything public. She notes in the interviews with police that she has been hiding, that she is not going out of the house. She is staying with family. She is scared. And police do note after every interview that they do believe she did not have knowledge of any of this.
Appreciate it. This has been such a great discussion with you both. Lauren Silver, Casey Early, thank you both so much. That is all for this episode of Opening Statements. You can watch it or share it if you like. Go to courttv.com to do that. Click on the Shows tab. When we come back in Georgia, day 3 of the trucker's girlfriend murder trial begins. We're going to hear from one of the victims' very close friends expected to take the stand.